Welcome to the dance floor, where life lessons are learned through the art of dance. I'm your host, Anna Harsh, and today I have a very special guest with me, Dr. Sally Sherman, who is an assistant professor, health and human development at the University of Pittsburgh, with an incredible amount of knowledge on dance and fitness and yoga. Dr. Sally, welcome to the dance floor.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Sally, we kind of go back a little bit. We were chatting earlier about our days at Slippery Rock University and all of the things that we've learned since then. Gosh, a plethora of life lessons, I think, to pass on to the next generation. So can you just give us a brief journey of your own professional career? Like, how did you get into dance and then yoga and et cetera?
I think how many of us got into dance, we sort of were born dancers, and our parents perhaps didn't know what to do with all of our energy and put us there. And then when we arrived, we felt at home. So that ends up being the story of so many of us, even those who discover dance later in life. They sort of arrive and they feel like, this is where I'm supposed to be. So probably very similar to many of your listeners. I arrived like that. I did grow up in a very, very small town, so I didn't have access to really high level training, had some dance, some gymnastics. And then as the studios surrounding sort of closed, my mom had to drive me further and further and further away to get that training. And then in high school, I was really mostly dance team type dancing, which was wonderful and fabulous and allowed me to find myself as like a choreographer and a leader, as a dancer and a teacher and educator. But I didn't really start getting high quality training until I arrived as a Bachelor of Arts student of dance at Slippery Rock University, where we were very fortunate. We had incredible educators and teachers and faculty, some of which are still there today. But after I graduated, I did an internship at Pittsburgh Dance Alloy at the time, which was a modern company there, and was hired out of that internship and went there and spent many years there, 13 years or something, as an educator, a teaching artist. I was grant writing. You name it, I was able to do it. So I really hope to do that.
And Dance Alloy was really a prominent dance company in the Pittsburgh area.
Yes, very much. And I was really lucky to be there. And again, I interned, and we didn't really have a formalized intern program yet at Slippery Rock. I believe they do now. But I just went there and worked for free and hustled and learned everything, was willing to kind of do everything, teach everything. I was teaching like creative movement birthday parties. And so I just sort of, I was answering the phones. I was willing to do everything and kind of on my own. And that is how I got that opportunity. So that definitely, I always felt like I needed to sort of make up for the fact that I wasn't highly trained from these like state-of-the-art studios and people in our program who had really fancy training in New York City.
I felt the same way.
Yeah.
Like I had to do extra on top of the extra, just to feel on par or even with. That's interesting.
But it benefited me in a lot of ways. I really think there's value in being the underdog, because you don't go in feeling like you just deserve something or something will be handed to you. You go in as the underdog going, I will have to outlast all of these people because I'm outworking them. And if I don't have, more natural talent than them or training, but I'm willing to drive to Dance Alloy and make no money, but do these things. And it ended up being a huge career move for me. I mean, I was there like over 13 years. During that time, I did get my master's of education, mostly so I could teach dance in higher education. I just needed like a master's degree that would enable me to sort of permeate higher ed. I really was falling in love with teaching college students at the time. And then, continue to do that sort of work. And very similar to what we as dancers do, you kind of do everything. And if you're willing to do everything, you just keep getting work. So I never suffered for work. And then later on, as my body was sort of, not able to do the things anymore that I was doing. And I had a baby and I discovered yoga and it just felt really good in my body. And later went on to get a second master's and a Ph.D. in exercise physiology in order to really do yoga research and start to contribute to the science of the things that we know as movers, but really wasn't showing up in the research.
I don't know what I would have done without yoga or Pilates or things like that. I've done it for over 30 some years, practiced it. And then I got certified in yoga and Pilates, like reformer and mat training. And I don't know where I would be today without it, because it really, for dancers especially, gives that extra layer of understanding how the body works, how it can move or shouldn't move, and how you can kind of put yourself back together when you do get injured, or just to maintain flexibility and strength.
Right. And, yoga and Pilates are very wise, and they were developed at a time before we really had the science to understand why they were put together that way.
Right.
But the authentic sequences of both Pilates and yoga are so brilliant and are really far ahead than the science ever really was. So
yeah, they really were ahead of their time.
Very much. Joseph Pilates was a physical therapist before physical therapists existed.
Exactly.
And yoga had like a dynamic warm up, and there's physical activity in there, moderate to vigorous physical activity, and then a proper cool down and mindfulness meditation. It's really like a package deal that dancers should all be exploring, whether you go teach those things or not, just for their own bodies. There's a lot.
Yeah, I think it's a great blueprint, really, for dancers that want to teach just how to set up a warm up, how to do a cool down. What is dynamic movement in the middle that we can do? Range of motion, too far, too little, exploration of movement on the mat, or, standing, balancing, all of that. I just felt like it was a roadmap for myself. It opened up me as a teacher, like, oh gosh, well, that's really organized and it's all right here for me. And not every dance class really has that roadmap. We have some things that we kind of copy from our teachers, but those were like clear, crystal clear.
Right. And it allows you to have employment teaching yoga, Pilates, incorporating those into the things that you can offer a program, a school, a job. So they end up being really good things to have on your resume of things that you can teach and lead and incorporate. And as dancers, we've always focused so much on flexibility and not enough on strength. And yoga and Pilates, there, of course, is that mobility element in there. As dancers, we tend to turn everything into hypermobility, like how much more flexible can I get?
Right.
We need to actually be matching that mobility with strength, and certain styles of yoga, and certainly the way that Joseph taught Pilates, there's a lot of strength that can be gained in there. So it can really help Pilates get that.
And it always radiates from the core, which I love, because if you don't have core strength, I don't want to see you balance, pirouette, leap, do anything. Like, I don't want to watch you dance. So that core strength, like you said, that inner strength on top of it, I think is also that mental strength that it gives you just to be you and focus just on you on your mat and no one else around you. And I think that's really important, especially today's world, that if we can just focus on ourselves, don't worry about what Susie Q is doing next to you. She's not a part of your world. Just focus on what you can do. And like you said, who cares about how high you can kick your leg? I'm not hiring those dancers. I want somebody who has that strength and endurance and that stage presence, but also that kindness backstage that they need to learn.
Right. They need to be team players.
In so many ways. And we were talking about that earlier. Things have changed. Teaching in the teaching classroom, I think, in the dance studio classroom, in the classrooms in the universities and high schools and things like that. I don't know if students are even practicing, I don't want to call them manners, but just like proper etiquette, maybe.
Yeah, I'm having that issue a lot. Everyone's walking around with their AirPods in or their Beats on. Right. And I'm a faculty member walking around this campus and I'm saying hello to students and they don't hear me and I'm trying to interact. They're walking in the door. I'm walking in right behind them. They're not even holding the door. I'm holding the door. They're not aware that I am. It's like we need to unplug and get out into the world, put our focus out on others, being careful not to make that comparison of others,
Right.
but
Right.
interacting, because relationships are built in those interactions of that. Hello, how are you? Nice to see you. How's your day? So definitely that is a major issue. Or if students are walking down the hall and I'm trying to call to them, and again, they can't hear me because they have their AirPods in. They're really missing out on interactions with people who are more seasoned than them, have been through things that can help them, assist them, build relationships with them. Another place I'm really seeing this is in the correspondence I'm receiving from young dancers or young students. They send emails as though it's a text message.
Yes.
And it makes them sound very, very rude, not very intelligent. And that's not true. It's just that that's how they sound. So I literally get emails that say, hey, where is this or that? Thanks. And so definitely the written correspondence is definitely lacking. And we need to really tighten that up just as a way to respect each other, but also just not making things so informal that it actually makes you look disrespectful.
Well, it's one of the things that I talk about in my second book that's coming up is that putting that unity back in community. And that's something that I learned through folk dance, that you have to look somebody in the eye when you're doing that handshaking right and left in the circle, that we form circles to remind us that we are all community. We're all equal. We're all part of this family that we're trying to, mediate through and go through life. And we need each other. Just reminds everyone in the circle, hey, I need person to my right and the person to my left to exist and really flow through this community in a proper way. And I think we just diluted all of that, and it's really informal. And it comes off that way that you were saying, like, I received the same emails. Hey, can't make rehearsal. Thanks. No, that's not a proper email. And in fact, my previous episode, I just talked about that. The fact that they even would check their email is a bonus, because sometimes they don't even check their email often, or they'll give you an email that they don't check that often, and then they miss out on opportunities or homework or events that are free and helpful to them. So we need to rein that in.
We've had students tell us, well, our generation doesn't really use email. That's not the way that we communicate. I understand that. However, that's the way that others are communicating to them. Right. So we have to be willing to, similar to how my generation has had to really understand social media very quickly, or during the pandemic, we had to become experts in technology.
Absolutely.
Not because that's the way we communicate, but that's the way that the people that we were trying to communicate with were communicating. So we have to sort of button up the email etiquette and usage. I get emails from students who ask me questions that they could just Google. Mm-hmm. And I know that they're actually more tech savvy than me. So consider if maybe this is a question that you could Google the answer or find your own response to it before sending that email. And then it sits in my inbox and I get 100 emails a day. And then by the time I get to it, you could have Googled it.
I usually say, what's my number one rule? And my dancers will say, do your own research. I'm like, that's right. You have to do your own research before you come to a job interview. You need to research that company. You need to do your own research before you show up for rehearsal. Is there a way you could do a backstory information, research about the show and the music, so that you have knowledge of that when you come to audition or come to do whatever? Do your own research. Number one rule, right?
Right.
Gosh, Sally, we're dropping a lot of truth bombs here. I hope everybody's taking notes. I hope you are taking notes at home.
Well, and the research too, before you meet with someone, do a little bit of work to figure out their name or how they go by or what their pronouns are, or what degree they have, that maybe they're an M.D. and you shouldn't be calling them by their first name. And you could call them Dr. So-and-so, or they are, even though they have a very masculine name, they actually are identify as a female, or just
Right.
a little bit of that extra work. And the internet, love it or hate it, we can access people's how they prefer to be called, and it can just start the interaction as being so much more respectful. We have a woman who works at the University of Pittsburgh, and her last name is Scott, but people look quickly and they think that's her first name.
Oh,
So
no.
they'll email her Mr. So and so. And every year it happens. And I think, just a little bit of extra care in that you could actually see that that's that person's last name and that they identify as female. And, she handles it so well, and she just sort of rolls over it and it's not a big deal. But I cringe because I think, just a little bit of extra looking or time, you could see very easily that that's actually her last name.
Just that extra effort. And that will go a long way with that person that you're communicating with, because they might hire you. Oh, look how much extra effort they put into responding quickly, correctly, politely. Just that little bit of manners and that proper etiquette goes a long way.
Right.
Movement and yoga and that sort of thing are sort of disappearing. The arts are sort of disappearing from schools and some colleges as well. Is there something we can do as a community to speak up and get that back in? Or how can we do more of that into schools and education? How can we get yoga and
Well, I think things that you're doing are what I would recommend: bringing the authentic practices and movement forms forward and continuing to teach them to the next generation, but also allowing people to experience movement and dance and various forms of physical activity. And in order to do that, we have to make it more accessible. Dance, there's always been sort of gatekeeping with dance. You have to have a certain body, you have to look a certain way, you have to fit in this gender role, you have to do this or that. It's no wonder that we have dwindling numbers in those things. So the more that we, even with yoga, the average person doing yoga, the majority of people doing yoga are white women, thin, college educated.
Right. You're right.
Well, so we have to empower teachers of yoga who are not those things. And in order to do that, we need to make our teacher trainings more accessible to those individuals, and people with disabilities teaching dance, teaching yoga, teaching Pilates. So just creating the accessibility so that more people can experience those things. And just like we sort of found our home when we started dancing, allowing people to feel that, and then more people doing it, more accessibility, more diversity in the people exploring these things, and then we can really make our case. But I definitely think that the gatekeeping into these things, it hasn't been intentional, but it's sort of been unspoken.
It was only for the elite, or like you said, the people of higher power or certain kind of generations.
Right.
I get it.
Right.
I do that with Allegro, with my dance company.
Yes,
we do a lot of festivals and outdoor festivals so that everybody can at least see it. And then now this year we're doing a legacy tour because it's our 30th anniversary. Crazy. So we're doing workshops for communities more than showcases, because it's time for the next generation to, like you said, explore these dances, even if they're not Italian. It doesn't matter. You learn so much from folk dances and community dances like that. Just holding someone else's hand that you don't know beside you. What a feeling, right? What a feeling. And then on the yoga side, I do a lot of free yoga classes at a park here. So we do that every Saturday. And sometimes it's at the library, sometimes it's at the park. So I'm trying to push the communities in my surrounding communities to do those sorts of things. Open up libraries with book signings and doing a little demonstration of dance so that children, adults, families of different ages and stages in their lives can come and enjoy it. So I think if everybody could just, wherever they are planted, wherever you're growing your garden of knowledge, explore and push those boundaries and say, hey, can we have a class? Can we do a community class? Request more things at your schools, right? Request and have the community speak up and say, hey, can we have this? I think we need to do that as educators.
Yeah, and figuring out what are the barriers for people from participating. My husband and my best friend and I have a project called the Full Psych Adventure Team. And we are really interested in getting people into the outdoors. And so what we do, we have a portion of our company that's nonprofit, and we go, what keeps people from getting outside? Well, very often we just need someone to hook arms with us a little bit and say, let me show you where to hike. And let me make that accessible to you. Let me meet you there with a smile and some basic instruction. And then I'll take you on this hike. And then I'll bring you back. And very often they want to know, how far are we going to go? How long is it going to take? What do I need to wear? We bring headlamps if we do something that's dimly lit or in the dark. And we find that if people just have someone to do it with, and they have someone who's there greeting them saying, it's okay, I'll show you, we get a lot of people that show up for these. And we remove we do them for free. We choose accessible locations. We have multiple of us that help lead things so that there could be a group that's moving a little bit more quickly. There could be a group that's moving a little bit more slowly. No one feels left behind. And then what they can do is they can go back to that exact location. We planned the route in a way that they could memorize it very easily. And so just thinking about what are the barriers for people, and then what can you do to help to alleviate those barriers? And very
that's
often
incredible.
It's just reassurance, like just reassuring people, take your time, wear what makes you comfortable. I'll show you, I'll return you to your car in 60 minutes, or just a little bit of reassurance goes a long way for people.
Yeah, if somebody knows what to expect for the experience, I think it takes that stigma out and that anxiety of like, oh, I don't want to do it. I don't know what to do, or I don't have anybody to go with. Like you said, those barriers. And it just goes back to, gosh, if we just had a buddy, that community spirit. And I think that's just the theme that what we've been talking about today is, how can we be more of an opening community to explore movement in different ways and grow together?
Right.
Sally, you've dropped so many life lessons today here on the dance floor. I think I'm going to need to go back and listen to it myself and get pen and paper and take notes myself.
Well, things we learn the hard way over decades, for sure.
Decades of experience.
Right.
Is there anything you are using today that you're like, gosh, this is my new favorite thing that has helped me, or a tool or an app or anything?
I should have switched to men's deodorant a lot sooner than I did.
It's strong. Does the job.
Yes.
I should have switched to men's sweatshirts long time ago because they're comfortable. They're a little bit bigger. They don't, I get it.
Right. Yes. My daughter and myself both, we use men's deodorant. And, her dad said to me at one point, Lorelei's using men's deodorant. I said, yeah, that's because the women's deodorant is more expensive and it's terrible. So, it's perfumey. It doesn't actually do the job. So I think anything where we maybe always did something because we're told that's what we're supposed to do, or, that's just what we've always done. Just think about in your life, like just what's not working. And it could be something very simple, like I'm still sweaty, or anything, no matter what it is, and think, how can I actually tweak this tiny thing that could actually have a big difference?
Listen, I still have duct tape in my dance bag for emergencies, so I don't know what to say. Like, there's always something new to try to fix a problem that we as dancers, from backstage to on stage to off stage, there's always a situation where we're like, this has to get better. We have to figure this out. And for me, that is duct tape. From costumes to where to land on stage as, a guide, it's duct tape for me.
Yeah, I love that.
Sally, you are so informative and you wear so many hats in life, like so many of us. And I'm just applauding you for all of your accomplishments. Where can we see your next project and how can we help you achieve your next goal?
Anyone can follow my social media on Instagram. I'm at Sherman Sally. Twitter, I think it's the same thing, at Sherman Sally. I'm on Facebook, Sally Sherman. And also the project that I mentioned, Full Psych Adventure Team. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and we lead free community meditation hikes or night hikes. We find people really like to get out in the woods at night. They just, again, are scared to death. they want someone to come alongside them. And then they find that it's so peaceful out there. So different community yoga classes, different offerings that we're leading, or workshops that we're teaching people how to mountain bike or do anything to kind of get in the outdoors. But yeah, follow along, and anyone's welcome to attend anything.
That's awesome. I will leave those links in the notes for the episode so people
Okay,
can
great.
click on and join in. And that's in the Pittsburgh area?
Yes, we are in the Pittsburgh area. We go north of the city, into the city, south of the city. We're sort of all around. We have some organizations that we partner with to lead different riverfront cleanups or all kinds of
Wow.
different things. And again, the goal just to come alongside people to get them into the outdoors, because there's so much healing that can be found just by getting into our surroundings and out of our heads and out of our AirPods and our apps, and just get out into the world and be together.
Well, for all of my listeners, we've learned so much from you today, Sally. And I think just making those connections, with someone new and doing something movement wise, getting moving out there, whether it's outdoors in nature or in a dance class on the dance floor, you need to keep moving in life and connecting with others in real world, right? Take out those ear pods and sit down the phone and connect with someone today.
Right. Absolutely.
Sally, thank you so much for being a guest here. I loved chatting with you, and I hope you come back and drop some more truth bombs for my listeners.
Happy to be here. Thank you. You're doing great work. Keep it up.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for listening today to The Dance Floor. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'm your host, Anna Harsh, and until next time, keep moving on the dance floor.